Well, good day everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Well, today we have Aunt Pat's typewriter. You guys saw this on a previous video. I inherited this typewriter, 1933 Royal Model 10, from my Aunt Pat, who passed away earlier this year. And so there's a little bit of a responsibility, I think, when you inherit an heirloom typewriter. A typewriter this size, obviously you have to find a place to display it or certainly keep it, either in storage or whatever. I think this typewriter personally is too pretty to keep in storage with its glass windows, etc. So some obvious condition issues that I think should be addressed because it is an heirloom typewriter. And one of the obvious things is the feet on this typewriter are badly smushed down due to decades of the weight of the heavy typewriter pushing down on the rubber. So I was fortunate enough to order a new set of feet from Tony Casillo. He has a business called Typewriter Stuff. He sells replacement feet for these. Fantastic. Let's put on a new pair of shoes on Aunt Pat's Royal 10. Stay tuned. Well, when I serviced Aunt Pat's typewriter a few years ago, I noticed that the squished feet were actually scratching her desk because the screws here were being exposed. The screw head was being exposed. And so I put some of this adhesive foam on these just to cover them. So we will get these feet off. The foot pan, I guess you call it, has a metal bracket as part of that foot assembly. Like that. So there's the original foot. Pretty badly squished. So the new feet are shaped like a truncated pyramid, and the top of the pyramid is where the plate fits over. And the screw goes up inside here with the washers, and then those will screw onto the frame of the typewriter. And the foot is a rectangle, so we will be aligning the rectangular shape of the foot with the frame of the typewriter here. And recess that foot up into that bracket. It mounted on the frame. Okay, the 4 feet have been replaced, but I wanted to point out to you this bracket here. If you take off the 2 left-hand feet, this whole bracket comes off, and it looks like between that bracket and the frame of the typewriter there's another rubber piece that wraps around, and it looks like it's a shock dampener. Maybe quietens the noise of the typewriter against the tabletop surface or whatever, but that's clearly old and should be replaced. I'll probably have to take this bracket off and peel this rubber off without destroying it and just find a sheet of rubber that I can replace this with. But for now, we have new feet on the old Royal 10. Removing the platen on a Royal 10 is not too difficult. I start on the left knob, the left side of the carriage, and I'm going to loosen the 2 set screws. You may or may not have to put a little penetrating oil in here, depending on the age of your machine. But then the left knob should pull out along with this short shaft, which is part of the line spacing clutch mechanism. So set that aside. Now we turn our attention to the right side of the carriage. I'm going to flip up the paper bale, get it out of the way. So you again have some set screws on the right side. These on the outboard side next to the knob, we're going to leave them on, but we're going to loosen and actually take off the 2 set screws inboard on the actual platen collar. These 2 screws recess themselves into the collar of the platen or into the shaft inside, and so take those off, don't lose them. And a little bit more. And they are longer than you would think. Alright, don't lose those. Okay, now you should be able to pull this shaft all the way out. And here is the shaft, the right Platen knob. This is now the right side of the typewriter over here. You're looking at it backwards. This is that entire shaft that pulls out with the knob. Okay, set that aside. And now the Platen will pull out. You lift up the right side of the Platen and pull it off of this collar right here. And here is the Platen removed from the typewriter. Set that aside and let's take off the paper pan and examine the feed rollers. Alright, we're looking again at the front of the typewriter, the paper pan that is underneath the Platen that we just removed. Set those screws aside, don't lose them, obviously. Okay, with these screws out, the paper pan will lift up. It sort of goes underneath the paper table in the back. Kind of pull it out like that, set it aside. Alright, so we have a long feed roller in the back here. Examining it, it actually looks really good. If you have to pull it out, it pulls right out like that. But it looks surprisingly good and it feels soft, which amazes me. I wonder if this was replaced a few decades ago. As far as the front feed rollers, so this is that front feed roller, and you can see the right hand one is cracked a little bit, and then this one inboard from that is really shrunken down quite a bit compared to its mate on the other side. Yeah, I think these definitely need to be replaced. There you go, there's another crack on that one. And obviously I'm going to be sending these parts off to J.J. Short of upstate New York to get them coated with fresh rubber. Some people ask the question, in this case, should I leave the rollers on the shaft or take them off, keeping in mind that they are attached with these little nuts. If I want to be really certain and safe about it, I could take them off, take one of the nuts off, and I can slide all these rollers off and just ship the rollers out individually and in a package, and then save the shaft and the nuts. And that's probably the more secure way of doing it. Also, take a picture of this before you send it off so you know how it goes back together, right? That makes sense. So this is the right-hand Platen knob and the shaft that runs through the Platen itself. You can see there's a flat spot here for one of those set screws, and then the other set screw actually threads into the shaft. So I can secure the one set screw into this hole, but the other one I'm just going to tape it on here really good so I don't lose it. Okay, let's take off those two paper bill rollers. I'm going to remove, or try to, oh yeah, it's tight, remove this screw on the right hand side of the paper bale. I should be able to just move this off slightly, and now I can slide out both of my rollers off this paper bale. And then we'll just set this back in here and put our screw back in place so we don't lose anything until all the parts have been shipped off. There you go. Paper bill rollers ready to ship off to J.J. Short along with the other rubber parts. So I've removed all those feed rollers from that front shaft, and I've reinstalled the shaft back into the typewriter along with the drive shaft for the Platen roller itself. So the typewriter will just sit here and wait for the rubber parts. Okay, this is one of the two larger feed rollers on the front set of feed rollers, and I'm going to send off to J.J. Short. You see how the rubber is cracked. Before you send it off to J.J. Short, you might notice there is an interesting little spring metal clip and an inner collar, an inner shaft or sleeve. You want to remove that spring clip just by unclipping on one end here and pushing it through the other side. and you want to save this inner sleeve and this spring clip. Don't send it off. Just send this part off, right? Save this. What you can do is you can clip the spring back into place on that inner sleeve like that. What I've done here is I've put those two sleeves with their spring clips back onto the paper bale so I won't lose them. So owning an heirloom typewriter is maybe a little bit different than owning just any old typewriter that you acquire. I think you might feel a sense of responsibility to the machine because of the value it represents based on the family connection, to try to restore it back in as good a condition as possible. I kind of feel that way about this. On the other hand, I don't know if I'm going to go to the trouble of getting new royal decals for the front here, for instance, that are missing. I'm the kind of a person that likes to see evidence of the machine's heritage and its life. I want to see the wear, the patina, the little worn corners, showing that the machine was used. I like that. It's part of its history. On the other hand, these kind of consumable parts that wear out, the rubber parts, I think it's important to replace those to make the machine functional as good as possible. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on heirloom typewriters. Do you have a typewriter in your family that has been in the family for decades, maybe half a century or more? What do you guys think about that? Is it valuable to you more so than a regular typewriter in your collection? I think it would be, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Well, in any event, I'll send these parts off to JJ Short and we'll wait a few weeks or a month or so, and when I get them back, we'll put this thing back together on camera and see how it feels after getting new rubber parts. Well, until next time, you guys stay creative and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.